Should be going live on YouTube in a second.
I can see.
All right, I think we're live.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me on my first YouTube Live. As you probably already know, I just released my new book, Flipping Houses Quick Start Guide, and it's live on Amazon, linked in the description below. Today we have a special guest. We have John Donachie from Clydebank Media, who's the publisher of my book. And he's kind enough to offer to help facilitate this YouTube Live event. And he's going to ask me all the questions that we already collected from you guys offline and live today. He's also going to moderate the live chat. John, thank you so much for helping with the event today. And can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's my YouTube debut, so I'm a little excited and nervous at the same time. I know you have a lot of experience, but yeah, so my name is John Donachie. We are a book publisher. Clydebank Media is the name of the publishing company. We publish the series Quick Start Guides. They're for beginner series written by experts such as Elisa. So we've really excited to work with her on the Flipping Houses book. I know everyone on the team really enjoyed working with you. A couple quick shout outs to some of the other people behind the scenes that helped with this: Brian, Jesse, Brittany, Katie, Marilyn, Ben, some other people. But just shout out to them. They all did an excellent job with some of the
Yeah,
behind the scenes stuff.
it was a really a team effort. Like
Yeah,
I was thinking if I were to do this book myself, I don't even know where to start.
yeah,
And everybody on the team is so professional. And we put a lot of work into this book, and I'm so proud of what it is. Um, like this 300 pages. It's just
yeah.
a really good effort to help beginners to get started in the house flipping business.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're all really happy with how it came out. And I know we're a little biased, but I do think it's the best flipping houses book out there. So, early responses are good though, early feedback. So we're excited about
Mhm.
it. So yeah, guys, I have questions that have been submitted in advance, but I'll gonna be keeping an eye on the chat. We'll try to take some questions from the chat as well. So I'll just kind of throw some chat questions in here and there. But so just
Yeah.
just submit them, and we'll get to them as soon as we
Yeah.
can. Like I said, to kind
It's
of just mix it up.
amazing that we have people from Italy, from Bolivia, from Canada,
Yeah, I
from
know. Yeah,
Southern California. That's awesome.
you have a diverse
Thank you guys so
audience
much. Yeah.
all over the place. Very cool. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get right to it. I'll start asking you questions, and we'll slowly progress through those. So, not surprising, a lot of the questions are related to like time and money. So we'll start with some of the money ones. So, um, first question I have here is, how much money should I have access to, or have, I guess, in general, before getting started with flipping?
hmm Yeah, I think a lot of beginners, really the biggest barrier for them to enter into the house flipping world is they are worried about money. They are worried about not having enough money, or if they have a lot of money, they worry about losing the money. So, how much money you need to start flipping houses? It's mentioned detailed in the book, but just to give you a very brief, like just to tell you like very briefly, it really depends on where you are flipping houses. In some markets, the home prices are in the like maybe $100,000 range, versus in the Bay Area, homes are in the $1 million range. So the money that you're going to need is going to be very different. Let's give you an example. If you are flipping houses in a market where home prices are $100,000, then you probably will get a hard money loan if you don't have a lot of funds yourself, you can borrow up to 80 to 90% of the purchase price from a hard money lender. And then you only need to find funds for the rest of the 10 or 20% of the purchase price, which is ten to $20,000. And that $10,000 to $20,000 doesn't have to come from your own bank account. It can be from friends or family who's interested in going into the business with you, or it can be from a stranger. It could be from a private money lender or an investor who's interested in earning some interest or earning some profit from the deal with you. And you also need the rehab cost, but luckily, 100% of the rehab cost can be covered by a hard money loan. So that means if you have a good enough deal, you actually don't have to have a lot of money on your own at all. You also want to make sure you have a good reserve because you are going to borrow either from hard money or from private money for a few months while you hold on to this project. So you want to have enough reserve to pay the interest while you are flipping the house, maybe for 3 to 4 months or even 6 months. So you can have enough money to pay the interest, to pay the utilities, to pay property taxes, and just it's good to have some reserve in general so that if something unexpected happens on the flip, you can still have the money to cover it. Sorry,
Interesting.
it's a long answer, but it
Yeah.
really depends on where you're flipping the house, what the price point is, how much your renovation budget is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It seems like, yeah, a lot of people obviously want to know like I need X dollars, but of course, as you mentioned, it's all very relative to um, market, your circumstances, the deal, etc. So, continuing
Mm-hmm.
in that same line of kind of questioning as far as getting started in funds and things like that, someone's asked, what types of loans did you utilize, or that beginners would most typically utilize? I know you've talked a lot about hard money. If you could just
Mm-hmm.
dive into that a little more.
Yeah. So when I was starting out, I used a hard money loan, but even until now, I still use a hard money loan to fund almost all of my flips because it's a very reliable source of funding, and it they charge the interest rate is a little higher than a conventional mortgage, but still the um, compared to the profit that you're looking to make, that's a not a substantial amount of money to borrow a hard money loan. When you borrow a hard money loan, as I mentioned earlier, you can borrow up to 85 or 90% of the purchase price. And a lot of times they will also cover 100% of the rehab cost too. If you don't use a hard money loan, you can also use a conventional mortgage. If you have a good W-2 income, then you can use your W-2 income and your credit score and your um, other assets to qualify for a conventional mortgage. And you can even get like friends and family to help you to pay the purchase price and rehab cost of your flips too. Yeah,
Interesting.
so there are different sources of funding that you can use on the
Yeah.
flip.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I know probably most people are obviously familiar with like a conventional mortgage, like you mentioned, going to your local bank, credit union, etc., and like the
Mm-hmm.
whole Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac back thing. So as far as hard money, what kind of those distinct lenders that do that, and when they lend, are they, if they're not using your W-2 and your credit, is it based off the deal itself? What is or other sort of criteria do they look for in that funding?
They look at your credit score and your they so the difference between a hard money lender and a conventional lender is they look more at the deal. really evaluate the deal to see if it's a good deal, and if they lend you the money, they are going to get the money back. But versus a conventional lender, they usually look at your income.
Yeah.
So a lot of real estate investors, including myself, we don't have a W-2 income anymore because we are doing real estate investing full time. So if I were to borrow a conventional mortgage, it's going to be difficult because I don't have a W-2 income. But hard money lenders don't really look at your income. They look at the deal and they look at your other assets. And you can borrow multiple loans at the same time too.
Interesting. Does that then,
Mm-hmm.
as you like, is it more challenging then for a big, like, to what degree are the hard money lenders also analyzing you as an individual and able to to successfully complete the deal? Like, as you have more history of deals under your belt, is
For
it's like a
sure.
no-brainer for them? Is that, as opposed to in the
Yeah.
beginning, is it a little more challenging? Do people typically shop around for that, or how does that process generally work?
Yeah, they definitely consider your track record. Like if you've done multiple projects already and you have you successfully exited your previous projects, they will of course give you a better rate and it's easier for you to borrow from them. If you're starting out, a lot of lenders are they are open to lending to beginners too, because I was a beginner one time as well, and I thought it would be difficult to borrow money, but they have a program for beginners as well. I think they are going to look at your any relevant real estate experience you may have, and they look at your credit history and your like if any other assets you may have, a
Mhm.
primary residence or rental properties, they help too.
So everyone should bring the Flipping Houses Quick Start Guide with them to the lender and say, "I read this, therefore, we're good to go. You're gonna get your money back, dude."
um I, I don't know if they're gonna do that, but in the book it does mention some tips on how you can negotiate with hard money lenders and try to get a good how to compare hard money lenders in terms of the rates they offer and the terms they give you, and what kind of criteria they use.
Mhm.
So when you look at different lenders, you know who might be who might offer you the best terms and rates.
Very interesting. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got a decent amount of questions popping in from the chat. How about we pull one of those? So this is
Sure.
something Ivan asks, what do you think about the housing market in the Bay Area now? And I guess in just in law at the market at large across the U.S., where do you think we're heading?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we're heading and downward and not in a good is it is it a good time to invest? Of course, that's another general question that people
Mm-hmm.
are always interested in timing, when they're going to enter and do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think a lot of beginners are wondering about that. Um, Everybody knows that we've had a few interest rate hikes, and the housing market is definitely affected because many buyers are sensitive to the interest rate. If the interest rate goes higher, their affordability goes down. So the market is definitely, we're seeing signs of the market softening, and there's also more inventory in the Bay Area, and I believe many other markets too. So in this market, even though the market is softening, it doesn't mean that if you are a beginner, you should stay away from real estate or house flipping. House flipping is kind of an unique kind of investment because it you are actually on both sides of the market. To flip a house, you have to purchase a house to flip. So you're on the buy side. And then after you remodel the house, have to sell it. So you're on the sell side. And because you are on both sides of the market, if the market is really strong, that means you're going to have an easier time selling the house and you probably will get a higher than expected profit. But if the market is softening, then that means it's easier for you to find deals. Like, for example, right now, I actually have a record number of deals going on. I'm working on 10 projects.
Wow.
I've never had this many projects at the same time before, but because of the market softening, a lot of sellers they understand that the market is changing and their agents are telling them that, so they don't want to be stuck in the market going downhill. So they are really desperate to sell their houses quickly. And that's when you can get a really good deal on the projects. Um, so, like, even though the market is softening, I think in the book, I also mentioned this. There are different cycles in the market. And I believe if you are flipping houses, you can actually make money in any market cycle. Like when the market, as I mentioned, when the market is going up, you can easily make money when selling the homes. But when the market is going down, it's much easier to pick up deals. Like when the inventory is really tight, when the market was very, very hot, it was very difficult to find good deals. Good deals are very hard to come by, but now I get many emails and phone calls every day. Like agents and wholesalers, they all try to sell houses to me. So like you're just in a different market, and the good deals are much more available right now.
Interesting. So, yeah,
Mhm.
very good. So it kind of answers the at-large question about people maybe being reluctant about timing and is it the right time? And yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, you're always
But
on
it
both sides. So,
Yeah, but it's also important as you are starting out, it's very important to be conservative with your analysis. Deal evaluation, as I mentioned in the book, is the most important step in flipping a house. Because if you don't analyze the deal right, if you are overestimating your after repair value, if you're using um, comparable sales that are from back in February or March this year, then chances are that when you are ready to sell the home, that you're not going to get prices that are as high as when it was back in the spring because the market is going downhill. So you need to be very conservative with your after repair value, and then that will help you achieve the expected or the your desired profit margin.
okay, very good. Here's a question. I'll pull this one from the chat. Robert's asking, what do you need to flip a house? He's asking, do you need a real estate license or anything like this? If there's any sort of qualifications or certifications, I should say, for someone starting out.
Yeah, you don't need a license. You don't need a real estate license, and you don't need any qualifications.
I'm perfect
It's
for it then. I'm
interesting.
perfect then.
Yeah, I know. Like I have like some audience from like they are still in high school or in college, and they ask me what kind of degree they should get in order to prepare them for a house flipping career. You actually don't need any like degree, or like you don't need a specific major for you to flip houses. It's more about soft skills, like your analytical skills, your interpersonal skills. Those soft skills will help you be successful in this business rather than any hard skills.
Yeah, it seems like, and even just kind of some of the comments you made earlier about people sending you deals, it's a lot of relationship building and
For sure.
establishing those connections, and very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
So in that same vein, one of our questions that we had prior to the event. A lot of people are asking about strategies for finding and working with mentors, and um,
Mm-hmm.
what that sort of relationship may look like in terms of mentorship or partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Finding a good mentor is really important for people who are getting started, and I I can't tell you how how lucky I was to be able to find my mentor who helped me on my first deal. I brought my mentor in on my first deal, so we did a partnership, and if it wasn't for my mentor, I probably would have lost money on my first deal and never wanted to do another deal ever again. So it's really important to find a good mentor. And in this book, I actually went in details on how you can where you can find a good mentor and what are the things that you should look for in the mentor. But in general, I was able to find my mentor at a real estate meetup. So there are many real estate events and meetings, probably everywhere. I assume it's everywhere. You just go on meetup.com, where it's a platform where like-minded people can form a group and they can have events together. And you can go on there and look for real estate investing clubs or house flipping related groups in your area. And then you go to those events. They usually have speakers, guest speakers, or like an open um, networking setup, so you can talk to other investors, talk to the guest speakers, and see who's a good fit for you.
Interesting. And now speaking to
Mm-hmm.
that relationship specifically, between the mentor and the mentee, is it generally similar to what you had, in which it was an actual kind of business relationship or partnership as well? Is that traditionally how those things work, or I mean, are there a lot of people that obviously are just doing it just to help? I'm sure as well, but kind of in your
It really
experience,
depends.
yeah,
It depends on what you are looking for and what the mentor is looking for. But the most important thing is you want to be able to, because you are trying to get guidance and you are trying to learn from your mentor. So you want to be able to add value to your mentor too. It doesn't have to be part of the profit. You don't have to go in on a project together, but you want to be useful, right?
yeah,
You want to be helpful to your mentor so that um, you're not just getting, it's a giving and receiving kind of relationship. You don't want to be only on the receiving end.
yeah.
So make yourself helpful. Um, like think about your strengths, right? If you are a good, um, for example, a photographer or videographer, you can offer to help your mentor um, take pictures of their flips, before and after photos.
Mhm.
If you are good with social media, then you can help them set up their social media presence, build their personal brand, or build a business website to help them get leads that way. Um, and I think the best way is to really put in the dirty work and find a good deals are so hard to come by in this business. And if you have a good deal, a lot of experienced investors would be willing to partner with you on the deal so that they get part of the profit, like what the arrangement was I had with my mentor.
Yeah, interesting. Um, let's see. Let me pull another one from the chat here. Let's see. This one is a little more maybe granular or technical, but uh, do you use 1031 law for taxes? Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't. So the 1031 exchange is for they call it investment properties, but by investment properties they mean like a rental property. So
Mm,
you have to rent a property for, I believe it's 2 out of the last 5 years or something, or 1 year out of the last 2 years. I don't remember exactly, but basically it needs to be a rental property for some time before you can 1031 exchange. It's a tax deferral. Um, it allows you to defer the capital gain taxes on the sale of the property,
yeah.
and you can exchange it into another rental property. Because I've all my flips are not used as rental properties, so I cannot take advantage of
Okay.
that.
Gotcha.
Um,
Very cool. Okay. Here's another question from the chat. What are your thoughts on auction houses?
I've never bought a house from an auction before, but I think they can be really good deals. From what I've heard from other investors, they can be great deals, but we actually talk about it in the book too. You really want to pay attention to the rules and regulations regarding the houses that you can purchase in an auction, because a lot of times you have to purchase a house sight unseen. So that means it's a lot of risk because you don't know what the condition of the house is. And many times they ask you to purchase a house with all cash. That all cash is different from the all cash offers that I make to purchase a house, because even though my offers are considered all cash, but I use a hard money loan. The hard money loan is considered all cash because of how quickly they can fund. But when you purchase an auction house, you cannot get a loan, not even a hard money loan. So you have to use actually all cash, and you have to have that much cash in the bank
Mm,
to be able to do it.
interesting.
So there's definitely some risks involved. And if you want more details about that, you should read the book.
Link in the description. Link in the description,
Yes.
right down there. Um, cool. Very good. All right, next question. So here's one from prior to the live. A lot of people have asked generally, like I said in the beginning, time and money. So we talked a lot about the money. Next is kind of time. Like, let's say somebody gets started, they want to start doing this, on the side, and they have a full-time job. Can you talk
Hmm.
about, your experience with that and kind of the time commitment that someone, might need to do a flip, to, do one or two a year when they get started?
Hmm. Yeah, it's actually doable to be working a full-time job while flipping your first house, and that's how I got started. Um, it means that you are, even though you can do it, but it does take a lot of discipline. It really is going to use a lot of the free time you may have outside of your job. So it's a big commitment to be able to pull it off. Um, that being said, you just need to, if you are determined to get into the house flipping business, I think um, starting while working a full-time job might be the best way to do it, because you still keep your full-time job and you don't have to worry about your next paycheck. You can just um, try the house flipping, give it some time, give it some like really put in some work into it and see if it's a good fit for you. In the beginning, like house flipping is not for everyone. In the beginning, you probably don't know what it takes to really flip a house. And once you start to do your first deal, you start to understand all the skills you may need, and all the how much money you are going to need, and whether it's the right fit for your risk appetite. And then if you can complete a flip while working a full-time job, then it really helps you decide if this is the right career for you, if you should leave your full-time job and pursue it. And how much time you are going to need for to flip a house, it really depends on whether you are starting out or if you if you've been doing this for a while. For example, when I was starting out on my first flip, I spent practically every minute I had, like every free minute I had outside of my work on the flip. Like I was thinking about it while awake and thinking about it while I was asleep, dreaming about it, and going to the stores to shop for materials every weekend and checking out the job site after work every day. But that was a lot of a very intense period because I was inexperienced and I didn't have all the system set up. I didn't have my team set up. I didn't have a trustworthy contractor. But now, after being in the business for 5 years, I flip about 10 houses a year and I spend about 10 hours a week managing my flips. I spend way more time on YouTube than on
Just
than
okay.
actually flipping houses.
Just watching
So
YouTube videos, you mean, right? Just watching YouTube
I'm
videos.
right, watching YouTube videos and creating my own YouTube videos. I spent way more time writing this book for many months than actually flipping houses. So it tells you that as you get more experienced in this business and you set up your system and your network, um, it can be more of a passive effort than it is in the beginning.
Gotcha. Very good. Um, I guess so. Another question that's kind of tacks on to some of the things you were discussing there. Um, Working with contractors, I know we had a lot of questions about that. As far
Mm-hmm.
as, I think a lot of people associate working with general contractors as like headaches and people that are unreliable, and they just see that and they
Mm-hmm.
get a little scared and nervous. Can you just talk about your experience, finding, reliable people you trust, building those relationships, things to maybe keep an eye out for, red flags with contractors.
Sure. Yeah. Working with contractor is a big aspect of house flipping. If you don't have a good, reliable contractor, you can run into a lot of issues, like I did on my first flip. The contractor I had at the time give me a very low bid compared to other contractors. And because I was inexperienced, I fell for the trap. I thought, oh, his bid is so much lower. So like, of course, I'm going to get him to do the work. But then as the project goes on, the he actually said, oh, this was not included, that was not included. And then all the extras added up, the actual cost of the renovation was actually similar to what the other contractors bidded in the beginning. So it's really important to find a good contractor who give you an accurate bid in the beginning. So to do that, you need to get multiple bids when you are trying to scope out a flip and understand what the scope of work should be. You want to compare the multiple bids together and decide um, what's the reasonable range for the renovation cost. And then from there, you don't want to just go with the lowest bids or the highest bids. You want to go with the middle ground. And then with a contractor, you want to I think we talked a lot about it in the book. You want to find somebody who's trying to help you save money rather than someone just trying to make you increase your scope of work. If the tiles can be saved, you don't want the contractor to tell you, oh, you need to gut it all and put in all new tiles. So if the contractor helps you think of ways to save money, then they are definitely um, they probably are keepers.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
you also want to avoid contractors who talk too much. Contractors shouldn't be salespeople, right? Uh, they should be doing the work. They should be good at what they do rather than good at talking. Because if they're salespeople, then they are probably lacking in the actual work part.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So we did have a lot, probably many more points in the book. I can't I can't
Yeah.
elaborate everything here.
That's really good. Okay. So here's a question from someone that seems like they're gonna interested to get it started from the chat. Should you have bought your own house, like your primary residence, first before buying a house to flip? And then a follow-up question, is it possible to live in the house while you're flipping? So maybe make it your primary residence. And is that something you have any, experience with or heard people have done?
Um, I bought my first home before I started flipping houses, but I don't think it's necessary. Flipping or buying your first home requires a lot of a good W-2 income and a good amount of savings to be able to put the down payment. Um, if you live in a market like the Bay Area, home prices are so high. Um, you probably don't have the money to, you may not be able to afford your first home until after you saving up for a few years. And I don't think that should prevent you from jumping into house flipping.
Yeah.
With house flipping is really the sooner you start, the better. My biggest regret is that I didn't start sooner.
Yeah.
The sooner you start to gain experience and you start to learn about the market and you get better um, at, like sooner too.
Yeah.
So you don't need to buy your first home, but if you have the if you have the resources to purchase your first home, I think it will help for sure because when you purchase your first home, you will like shop for houses, and that's going to help you understand the market, and it's going to help you understand the home purchase process, what to look for and what to look for in home inspections and how to deal with real estate agents. It's definitely helpful, but it's not uh it's not a must have
Yeah.
before you start flipping houses.
Okay. We had some questions regarding, obviously we're in the U.S. And you obviously have the audience outside the U.S. and book readers will be from outside the U.S. Um, is
Mhm.
everything that you teach in the Flipping Houses Quick Start Guide applicable, more or less anywhere in the world?
Um, I don't know other markets that well, so I can't tell you for sure if everything I said in the book will apply to your market. But what I can tell you is it's interesting that my mentor actually just moved to Portugal. So he had been flipping houses in the US for over 10 years and he moved over there, and he's planning to start his house flipping business in Portugal.
Wow.
And he told me that the rules and regulations are actually um, more favorable to house flipping and there's less taxes. So I can't tell you about every market. They're all different, but I think it's interesting that he's going to apply what he learned in the US market to the Portuguese market.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Mhm.
In a similar vein, um, talking about location of flipping, some people have asked, can they essentially like flip houses remotely? Like, let's say they feel like their market is where they actually live and reside. They can't actually flip houses there, but maybe there's another market, or maybe there's just better opportunities they feel in another market. What are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on that, specifically, for someone just starting out?
Yeah. So we actually, I spent a couple pages talking about it in the book. Um, I, I think it really depends on your personal preference. I myself I'm more comfortable like investing in my own backyard. I like to be able to see the houses that I'm going to flip and check on the projects regularly and work with contractors that I've met and I've built a relationship with, and real estate agents who I've known and built a relationship with. That's my comfort zone. But I know other investors who flip houses out of state or flip houses um, a couple hours from where they live. I think these are all you can do any of these. You can choose where you want to invest, but it depends on whether you have boots on the ground, people you can trust in a remote place where you want to invest in, and whether you have the risk tolerance. You are going to have some people do work for you, but you may not know them well enough. So in the beginning, it's more of a trial and error kind of thing, and until you find someone reliable.
Gotcha. Okay. A lot of questions about, and I know this is definitely not something that's going to be an easy answer, but just talking about analyzing the rehab costs. Trying to, I guess, in a larger question, just about doing due diligence and trying to analyze deals. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you get better at with more experience? Analyzing and seeing
Of
more
course.
flips. And for someone just
Yeah.
starting out, how can they kind of do their best to make sure that they are in fact getting into a profitable deal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have I believe a full chapter talking about at least one chapter in the book that's um, talks about how you should evaluate deals. But I think the main thing as people are starting out is really to um, overestimate your rehab costs and underestimate your after repair value. Because when you evaluate deals, you start from the after repair value. The if the From the after repair value, you deduct all the costs like rehab costs, financing costs, agent commission, closing costs, all of those, and then you deduct your desired profit to get to your max purchase price. So when you underestimate your after repair value, you are making sure that the after repair value that you are trying to hit is more attainable. So, like I mentioned earlier, in this market, when the market is going downhill, especially, you want to be super conservative with your after repair value so that even though the market is going down, you can still hit the after repair value to make sure that you are going to um, have the profit margin that you desire. And then at the same time, you want to overestimate your rehab cost because even if you get multiple bids from contractors, there still could be unexpected costs um, as the project progresses. Like I still get hit by unexpected costs, even though I have a reliable contractor and I'm experienced. Sometimes for example, the contractor opens up a wall and then he sees that the pipes are all rotten and we have to repipe the whole house. And then you want to have some buffer in your rehab cost to be able to cover unexpected costs like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seems like that's a tough question to answer in a short period of time. So definitely check out the book, for anyone who
Right.
hasn't picked it up already. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of people have asked about company, forming a company. And this is something I think anyone getting started in real estate, no matter what it is, that's generally one of
Mm-hmm.
their first questions. I feel like, should I form an LLC? Do I do this under my own name? So, can you speak a little bit about, some of that stuff?
Sure. We we talk about it in the book in more details, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advices. But from what I've heard from legal professionals, they told me that it's really recommended to set up an entity before you start doing any kind of investing, because when you have an entity that hold your flips, you can separate the liabilities and the assets from your business, um, from your personal assets and liabilities. So if something goes wrong on your flip, um, the person or the entity who's coming after you, they cannot go after your personal assets, especially if you have a primary residence or you have a lot of money in the bank. I think it's very important to set up an entity to so that you are protected that way.
Okay, very good. Let's see. That's a good question there. Um, let's see, another question we had. What role, I guess this is speaking to kind of the buying side now, what role, or excuse me, the selling side, what role does the kind of staging and decor and all that, how much, do you invest in that? What weight do you give that? And how valuable do you think that is in sort of this
Mm-hmm.
on the selling side, when trying to
Mm-hmm.
offload the property?
Yeah, I think staging is really helpful. I believe staging actually makes a house look bigger and more desirable than it is if you were trying to sell it empty. That being said, it also depends on your market. It depends on the other homes that are for sale in the area. If the other homes are not staged, you probably don't have to spend the extra couple $1,000s to stage the flips that you are trying to sell. But if other houses are staged, then you would be at a disadvantage if you sell your house without staging.
Okay. Jumping back to sort of analyzing deals and the due diligence. Um, are there any things that really that really stand out as red flags or are basically like non-negotiable things with houses that if you're looking at a house and it has X, Y, or Z or needs X, Y, or Z, you just walk away from the deal. You're like, I'm not even gonna touch that.
Um, there are red flags. There are houses that have unique features. For example, homes on a busy street, homes that back up to a freeway, or houses that don't have a garage. Those are red flags, but it doesn't mean that you cannot flip those houses. I would never say that just if a house is on a busy street, then you don't touch it. If the houses have these undesirable features, then you want to make sure that you are getting a good discount on the purchase of these homes, because you are going to have a harder time to sell these and the buyer pool will be smaller. So it's important to know that when you come across those type of deals, you need to be more conservative with your underwriting.
Mm, okay. What about any like specific construction types or anything like that? Other sort of look some of the location things you said. Is it? It's
It's
all
similar. it's not like if it's a certain type of construction, then you just shouldn't touch it. It's more about what are the houses that are in the neighborhood? Like, are they similar
Hmm.
or are they different? If your house is very different from all the other house, most other houses in the neighborhood, then that's something you should pay attention to. You should consider whether the features that the house has are undesirable to home buyers. And if that's the case, then you want to discount
Okay,
the resale value.
very cool. A couple
We
questions.
take some questions
Yeah, a couple questions.
live.
Yeah, this one's from the live chat. Um, so it said, this person asked, I found a house that I wanted to fix up for myself, but found out there are permit issues. No permit for the pool, pool house, basement, bathroom, garage. Have you dealt with permit issues and how?
Yeah, I certainly have. And permits are usually really can really be a pain. I've purchased homes where the previous owner didn't get necessary permits for some renovations on the home, and we actually right after I purchased the house was, even before we started working on it, it was reported to code enforcement, and the house was red tagged, and we had to actually get all the work that was done by the previous owner permitted, which meant we had to hire an architect and an engineer to legalize everything.
Wow.
And it took a long time, and it was painful because it was also during the pandemic, and
Mm,
everything just took even longer. So when there are permit issues, you want to be very careful before you proceed. You want to do some research to know exactly how long it's going to take for you to get those issues resolved. Um, in the Bay Area, I know when a house is red tagged by the code enforcement, it's the code enforcement timeline is different from regular permitting. It's probably at least a couple months longer, and they are going to walk through the house and tell and look at everything that may not have a permit before. So it's not just what they tagged first, it's everything that was done previously. It could be you are liable to get it all legalized. So there's definitely a lot of risk, but when there's risk, there's reward. Um, for those type of properties, because many other buyers may not want to touch them, so you can probably negotiate a much better deal.
interesting. Okay, another question from the live chat. You've talked about staging. What are your thoughts on virtual staging? What percentage of your home sales are conducted using online platforms like Zillow versus in-person stuff?
So staging, I think virtual staging is interesting. We also talked about it in the book. I think in some markets, maybe virtual staging is good enough, but in my market, I believe buyers, especially because the price point is pretty high, it's always at least $1 million. Most of the time is a lot higher than that. And when that much money is at stake, buyers, they definitely want to check out the house in person. If you have virtual staging, when they go to the house, it's still empty. So it doesn't really, it doesn't help. But in some markets, if a lot of other houses are, or other houses for sale are using virtual staging, then you could definitely look into that option.
Okay. Here's another question from the chat. Do you have a different strategy for the fixer that you bought at the peak of the market? Now that the market is changing, do you adjust your targeted sale price, um, and like, adjusting your profit estimates and things like that? like that
Yeah,
fluctuating, I guess.
right. I think we already touched on it earlier, but basically when the market is going down, I try, or even when the market is still going up, but when it's going up really quickly, like what we experienced in the past year, I usually don't use the highest comps as my ARV. I don't look at the comp if there are comps selling for example, if the comps are selling for 1.5 million, and some comps are selling for 1.6, 1.7. I tend not to use those one-off comps. I tend to use the lower comps in the area. And when the market, as of right now, when I do evaluations, I don't use comps that are from the peak of the market, and instead I'm looking at comps that are from a year ago before the market went crazy. Um, and that allows me to be conservative with my after repair value, and it will allow me to hit the target after repair value a lot easier.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. Some people are just asking for investing advice now. Where should I park my money after selling my house? I guess, well, I guess on that, that type of question. So when you do, you buy the house, you flip it, you sell it. Are your profits generally, are you operating in such a way that you're kind of like reinvesting that into the next flip, or at least portions of it, and things like that, and kind of like growing, the amount you can do, or kind of what
Mm-hmm.
are your general thoughts on and strategies with that?
I usually reinvest in future flips. And I don't invest in the stock market because I don't know stocks very well, and I've lost money in the stock market before I started investing in real estate. And I find real estate a lot safer than the stock market because we don't see fluctuations so quickly, so dramatically in a short amount of time. And um, real estate in like when you look at real estate trends in the long term, it's always going up because there's very steady population growth, but we only have this much real estate available for purchase. So in the long run, real estate pricing is always going up. And even though in the short term there may be ups and downs, but it's a lot safer than the stock market or Bitcoin, in my opinion. I believe there are people who are experts in the stock market or Bitcoin, and they would say otherwise. But
Right.
that being said, I find it I find it safer to keep my investments in the real estate markets. If not on flips, you could invest in rental properties or some syndications on like multifamily properties.
I think you mentioned you don't have any rental property. Is that something you're ever interested
I
in
do
doing?
have,
Oh, you do have, so okay.
yeah, I actually have two Airbnb units,
Okay.
and I'm actually building an ADU, which will become two extra units.
Okay.
And I think it's a great investment. Um, the Airbnb, it's short-term rental, so the rental income you generate is a lot higher than if you were to do long-term rental. Um, for my Airbnb, I'm getting about 6,000 or over $6,000 a month in rents.
Oh,
But if I were to rent it long-term unfurnished, it would be like two, $3,000. So it's double the the rental income.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, somebody
Hmm.
did ask about, generally your thoughts on Airbnb, I guess, and kind of the future of Airbnb, if you still think it's a good opportunity to do short-term rentals with Airbnb and things like that.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't had any issues. Well, I did have my neighbor called me one day and she said, "Are you aware that there was a big party happening at your house last night? There were 100 people in the house and the police were called and there were gunshots."
Whoa.
I know. Yeah, I had no idea. And I called my property manager immediately. It turned out that there was a big party and it was a pretty messy, but luckily there nobody was hurt and there was not much damage to the property.
Wow.
But we did take their security deposit.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that um, yeah, that could happen. I think Airbnb is actually banning house parties,
I heard
so
that.
it could
I heard
help
that.
the yeah.
Yeah, that person gets 4 stars. That's not good. Let's see here. Um, so I think I missed some questions about best practices on the seller side. Um, that's one thing. If you could kind of just talk about the selling process. Um,
Sure. It's actually we spent a whole I think a whole part of the book talking about how you should sell your flips for top dollar. But basically, oh, it's a big it's a big process to talk about it here. But there are many tricks that tips and tricks that you can use to help increase the sale price of the flips. I think the main thing is you want to um, well, it depends. It depends on your market. In the Bay Area, usually the strategy we use here is to price the homes low and then try to get a bidding war for the price to go up. But in other markets, when the demand is not as high, this strategy probably wouldn't work. You may want to price a little higher so that when buyers make a lower offer, it's still going to be a good offer. So it really depends on the market, and there are I really don't know where to start. Where to start?
just start reading that chapter.
It's a big topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really there are so many things you can do. Like you want to get your home into tip-top shape so that every buyers who go to your house or who see the pictures are going to um, be attracted by your property and they would want to they can really picture themselves living in the home. Staging helps a lot. And then use your agents to negotiate the sale for you. Use different strategies in different circumstances.
Hmm.
It's difficult to tell you everything in here.
It's almost
Yeah,
like they should
just
buy
read the book.
they should buy the book.
Mhm. I
That sounds like
think
a good
so. Yeah.
idea. That's the best advice you could give. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, here I think we have we're at about an hour and 4 minutes. I have another question pulled up here. If you want to do that, or up to you.
Sure. Yeah. We can do like a couple more questions.
Okay.
And then I think it's a yeah, if you guys have more questions, make sure you put it in the chat so
Yeah.
John can ask me.
Yeah. If I missed it, guys, just drop it in again. I appreciate it. All right. Any tips on competing with cash offers? I was approved for a conventional, but there's a lot of competition in Florida, this person's asking.
Sorry, what was that again?
Any tips on competing with cash offers? So when buying a home, this person said they're approved for a conventional loan, it seems, assuming
Mm-hmm.
for a property to flip. But I guess just by the nature of the competitive market, if there's any
It's
strategies for
hard.
that.
Yeah, it's difficult to compete with the cash offer for sure, but if you use a hard money loan, like I mentioned earlier, it's actually considered all cash because hard money loans can usually fund within 1 or 2 weeks. Usually cash offers close in a week or so. So when you are using a hard money loan, it's considered all cash and it's not subject to any appraisals or like inspections. And you would be able to make an offer that's non-contingent. It's really important when you compete with when you are in a competitive situation to make your offer non-contingent so that the seller knows that when they take your offer, it's a sure thing. They are not going to have to risk you backing out of the deal because you're making a non-contingent offer. It's not subject to any changes.
Okay. Here's an interesting one. This or that. Redo backyard, front yard versus redo 15-year-old functional kitchen. Which one adds more value in San Francisco specifically?
Mm. I think I know you already gave some details, but it's hard to tell
Hmm.
unless I see what the kitchen actually looks like, what the front and backyard actually look like. If the kitchen, I think the best way to, without actually seeing the property is probably for you to, the best advice I can give you is to look at the comparable sales. How does your kitchen compare to the comparable sales um, for the price? Like if you are targeting a sale price and this comparable sale is sold for that price, then you compare your kitchen with their kitchen, compare your front and backyard with their front and backyard, and that's going to tell you where you should put work into. And you don't have to put all the money in the kitchen or the front and backyard. You can put some money in the kitchen and some money in the front and backyard. For example, if the kitchen cabinets are in decent shape, you can maybe paint it and replace the countertops, replace some of the appliances, and make sure the kitchen looks new, looks fresh. And the front and backyard, you may not have to do sod. You can put some plants in, and plants are not that expensive.
Very cool. Here's a question. Any advice for renovating a hoarder house? What do you do with things left behind by the previous tenant?
I just use a hauling company and they haul everything and it probably usually on my flips it costs a few $1,000s to remove all the debris and all the trash. With a hoarder house, I think it's important um, to have some budget for unexpected costs because when there's a hoarder house, when there's a lot of stuff in the house, it probably will be difficult for you to see um, like what the floor is like and what the walls are like, to check all the closet space and the attic and the crawl space. So you want to have some extra budget to make sure that once the debris or once the things are all removed, if there's something that you didn't see before, you still have the money to cover it.
Very good. Um, Thoughts on flipping a home into a duplex? So I guess converting a single family
Um,
to duplex.
it depends on the market. For for me in the Bay Area, don't I don't like that idea very much because there's a lot more demand for single family homes than for duplexes or triplexes. But in other markets where there may be more rental properties, if there are more rental properties in the neighborhood and if the rents are great and you know that there's a demand for duplexes and triplexes, then it might be a better option.
Okay. How can you do 100% no money for a flip when you have to pay for the rehab to get reimbursed?
Um, it's it's hard. It's definitely hard to do a flip without any money at all. But if you can get some money from a private investor or a private money lender, like we mentioned earlier, you can use maybe you can borrow more than the the amount to cover the purchase, the gap between the hard money loan and the purchase price. So, for example, if you are purchasing a house for $1 million and the hard money loan funds, let's say $90,000, I'm sorry, $900,000, and you borrow instead of borrowing only 100,000, you can borrow 120,000, 150,000, depending on what you can negotiate with the lender, the private money lender, or the um, investor. And then you can use additional money to cover the construction cost before the hard money lender reimburse you. Or if you can negotiate with your contractor, you tell them, I'm going to have to pay you like a couple of days or a week after you finish the work. If you tell them upfront, maybe they will agree to that.
Okay. Um, where do you see home prices going the next 6 months to a year? I guess, at national level, maybe your market specifically too.
That's a $1 million question.
Yeah.
Nobody has the crystal ball. It's very hard to say, but um uh I think there's definitely a lot of downward pressure, but we also have very strong fundamentals, like the employment unemployment rate is very low, and um company earnings are very strong. So and the demand for housing is always there. With millennials are purchasing houses, they are starting families. So um, it's hard to say. I think it's the best thing is to hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Just be
Okay.
conservative.
That's good. Um, Someone's asked, what are your best resources for getting deals? Are there agents actively looking for deals for you?
There are. Um, So most of my deals are from real estate agents, and there are definitely agents. I think I have hundreds of agents in my network, and many of them are actively looking for deals for me, and some of them are looking for deals passively for me, um, which means they will bring the deals to me if they come across something without them really like chasing after the deals. I think I really like that strategy because it's free, and it takes a lot of upfront effort. So in the beginning, you have to set up your network, you have to build the relationship with those agents. But then after the relationship is built, you can just sit back and it's kind of a passive process where whenever they come across deals, they reach out to me and I don't have to always be on the lookout for deals.
Okay.
And in the book, we actually mentioned many other avenues to look for deals. So.
Very good. This is a good one. How do you determine the ARV for a property If all the comps are 4 months old, then the market shifted during that time period. Um, yeah, how do you kind of deal with that?
Um, so there are two ways to look at comp to get more comps than you can find. One way is to look back further. So as you mentioned, um the market shifted in the last three about 3 months. So if the comps are all from 4 months ago, they are probably at a higher point in the market. So when that happens, you can look back even further. Like what I'm doing now, I look at comps that are from a year ago before the market had a peak. So you can do it that way. Or another way is you can look at comps that are a little further away. So instead of looking at comps that are within a quarter-mile radius, you look at comps that are within half a mile radius or even a mile radius. So that gives you more insight into what the market, how the market has changed.
Okay. Um, Here's another question. Do you always monetize every home, or do you sometimes try to keep or restore historical features in older homes like Victorian or Craftsman? By the way, you have excellent taste.
Thanks.
Lots of comments.
Um, Yeah, I usually try to, it depends. It still depends. So it depends on in the area where your flip is. If in the area where your flip is, buyers like historic historic homes like Craftsman or Victorian style homes, then you want to restore the features as much as you can, but still add modern features into the home, like a more modern kitchen and newer appliances. But if in the area where like there are a lot of older homes, but buyers like more modern finishes, like in San Francisco. The home I flipped in San Francisco was uh like an older style home on the outside. But I realized that comps in the area, they all have modern finishes, and all of those modern homes are selling for a lot higher than homes that are that have older historic features. So I decided to actually renovate the home as if it's a modern home on the inside.
Right.
So it's really important to look at the comps.
Okay. Let's see. Does adding designer appliances or designer architecture styles in interiors help in selling at a higher price on flips, or is it risky?
Um, it depends on what you mean by designer appliances.
Yeah. Gucci
I think it
oven.
depends on it depends on the market. Again, look at the comps. Like, do the comps that sell for the price that you are hoping for, do they have the high-end appliances or designer features like marble um, countertops or marble tiles? If they use those finishes, then you better use similar finishes. Or if you want to save on budget, then you are going to have to discount your resale price.
Okay. Um, what do I need to show the bank for the highest construction loan for new construction?
Uh, the banks for the highest, that's kind of I'm not really
Yeah, it's not.
fully understanding the question. Show
Yeah,
the bank for the highest construction loan.
yeah.
Um,
I guess they're asking kind of, yeah, what kind of documentation? If I don't know if their own financial records and things like that, W-2 earnings potentially, if that's what they're referring to, and credit scores for new construction loan. I guess that not necessarily directly related to flipping though. Oh,
Yeah. I think you probably want to show them the comparable sales and you want to show them your experience building new construction homes.
yeah.
Mm, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Um, do you hire a stager or do you do the staging yourself in your homes?
I hire a stager. I think it's well worth the money because the professional stagers they have the taste to they know what would look good in the home, what would complement the home, and also they have all the furniture and accessories um, that fits different home style and different price points too. Yeah, it's hard for unless I want to start my own staging company too, which some of my friends, my house flipper friends, have their own staging companies.
Mhm.
But unless I want to go that route, I don't think I would be able to have enough inventory to stage my homes and style them well enough as my stager can.
Okay. Um, I know you talked
I
about,
think we will take maybe two more questions.
yeah, okay, sounds good. Um, let's see, this one, I know you've talked about this earlier. Do you prefer to use your own cash to buy and renovate a home? Or do you prefer to use the hard money loan and try to get in and out of the flip quicker because of the interest constraints?
I try to use hard money loans whenever I can because when you are, I want to be able to do multiple projects at once. So where I'm flipping houses, the home prices are so high. It's difficult if I were to use all of my money to fund the flips. I probably can't fund 10 deals at the same time. Um, I think it's important once you've built a network of agents, they continue to bring you deals. It's important to always um, be ready to take on more deals. Even though I have like 10 deals right now, I'm still open to more deals if they are really good deals. To do that, you really want to leverage as much other people's money as you can so that you can still take on more projects.
Okay. Let's see, one more. Your remodel ideas are great. How do you come up with the ideas for like just essentially remodeling homes?
There are many sources. Actually, I think we have more questions, right? We'll
Yeah.
take okay, we'll answer all the questions we have for now.
Okay.
So the um I get ideas everywhere. I browse online a lot and I look on Pinterest. I actually find Google search works better than Pinterest for me. I just search for example, the other day I was looking to for inspirations for like a chandelier over a freestanding tub at a new flip. And I just search chandelier over tub on Google. And then the Google image search, they have many pictures. And then I look at all the pictures and then I decide what style I like the best.
Very cool. Pinterest. Let's see. What kind of lawyer do you use to give you legal advice for setting up an entity?
I use asset protection attorneys. So they specialize in asset protection and they help me set up entities and they also um, like help me decide the structure, the entity structure I use. But for beginners, if you are just starting out, I don't think you need that complicated structures. You can probably set up an LLC on your own or by your CPA, and like you don't need multiple companies if you're just doing one flip.
Hmm. Okay. Um,
We're getting more and more.
are
So,
you, well, here's one. I guess this one's asking, are you looking for any demo help? I don't know if they're saying they're available for demo help or not, but I guess just at a at a larger question, like, is your team or team pretty fixed? Like they've been consistent over the last few years, or do you find that it's transient? And any of the people that make up your team?
Um, so the way I approach it is if I find someone who's really good at what they do, I do my best to keep them on the team.
Hmm.
Like my stager, my inspector, my contractor, of course. And so I just use the same people so that I don't get any surprises.
Gotcha. Um, do you do cold calling now?
Uh, I definitely started with cold calling. As I mentioned in details in the book, um, like I use cold calling to build my network of agents, and it's very scary in the beginning. If anyone has done cold calling before, you probably know that you may freeze when you are on the phone because you get rejected right away and people hang up on you. And but after you make a few phone calls like that, you just get used to it. You don't care if they hang up on you or if they reject you. You just say thank you and then you hang up and then you make another call. I think it's actually a great way to get started and to um, to kind of build up your tolerance
Yeah,
to to have a have thick skin.
right, right.
It's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. That you guys, it seems like you really have to with that because there's just the amount of rejection, I'm
Right.
sure, as
So
with
we're
most
gonna
cold calling.
answer the last two questions we have on here, right? And then
Sure.
it's already been an hour and a half.
Which ones you looking at? The
With the gas prices? Oh, that's not a question, huh?
what can you do about the gas prices? Can you change?
Uh,
Is that in the book at all? I would like to
Get
know.
an electric car.
Get an electric
Yeah,
car.
I actually I don't drive any gas cars anymore. So I think the best thing is to get an electric car and install a car charger at your house.
Perfect. Actually, this one that just came in. It's a kind of other people had asked too. Speaking back to when we originally started talking about mentoring, obviously I'm sure you get this a lot. People asking, "Hey, can you be my mentor? Or do you do mentoring? Do you do group coaching?" Um, to that, you say, "Do you? I don't know. Do you do that?"
Um, I sure I'm happy to do that, but I think a lot of people when they think about mentorship, they think about oh, like the mentor is going to put together a course for me and they
Sure.
are going to teach me uh, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that. The mentorship that I'm offering is a lot like it doesn't have the structure like that. It's more like if you have questions, you can ask me. And
Hmm.
then if you find a good deal, you can bring it to me. And then if you want to partner with me on the deal, I think as we mentioned in the beginning, that's the best way to seek out mentorship. So it's more even if you have a mentor, it's still all about doing the dirty work yourself, doing the it's about the grind, right? It's about putting in the work yourself and looking for try to build up the network and try to find good deals on your own first. And if you have questions, you reach out to your mentor. And also, I think the best mentors are local mentors. If you are in the Bay Area, sure, like especially in the South Bay or Peninsula. But if you are in Texas, then it will be hard for me to mentor you because I don't know the market there that well.
Sure. I guess the first step would be, read your book. That's good start to
Yeah,
the
I
relationship.
really jokes aside, I'm really proud of this book. I think it's really it summarizes all of my learnings and my experiences, a lot of real life examples in there. I put a lot of effort into the book, and I think I hope it's worth worth your while. It's yeah, I think that's really the all of the knowledge is in there.
Hmm. Okay. Link in the bio, by the way, or the description, I guess.
Right. Link in the description. Yeah.
Or just search Flipping Houses Quick Start Guide on Amazon. Um,
Yeah.
okay. I think we might be at the end here.
Cool.
What do you think?
Thank you guys so much. Yeah. And thank you, John, for for all the help with this live event. And
Sure.
it's my first time doing YouTube Live. And I hope you guys got what you were looking for. And thank you guys so much for the support and for all the love. And I didn't expect to have so many people and so many questions joining us live here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for everyone who joined and asked questions. Awesome stuff. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Yeah, if you guys have more questions that we didn't cover in the chat, you can leave in the comment and I will try to get to those.
Alrighty.
And someone, yeah, like thank you guys for joining from far and wide. It's
Yeah,
really heartwarming.
people from Italy and all around.
Yeah, I saw someone was from New Zealand.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome, awesome event. Bye guys.
Bye.